Hey YouTube. Doing something a little different. I'm kind of coming up with my own movie monologue off the top of my head. It's a little idea I had. About a guy named Kimberlane. I haven't come up with a first name yet, but Kimberlane seems to really ring. It's kind of gives you this cool name about who is Kimberlane? What is Kimberlane? So that's basically what this would be for the next few minutes. Again, this is just going to be off the top of my head. It'll probably suck or it'll probably be pretty good. Who knows? So let's see how it goes, huh? Kimberlane was a man not to be trifled with. He never meshed with the real world. His world and this world, two realities in their own right that never coalesced, that never mixed very well. He lost his wife at a young age. She was giving birth to a child that was born unlike any other. Kimberlane didn't know how to handle it. First time he saw this child, he panicked. The child couldn't speak. The child couldn't see. But the child had an uncanny ability to tell what was going on around him even at a young age. The child would later on develop special techniques of mentality that would show the world how truly magnificent the human brain could be. Kimberlane never knew how to take it, never knew how to understand his son. But he loved his son. He loved him more than any other father in the world should love a child. Not so much to a perverted state, but more to a state of willing to rid the world of the son that he loved. Never made much sense to most people, but he loved his son so much. And yet, he could never understand the child. Kimberlane would later be known as a man who stood for his beliefs, but was an outsider. Society never truly accepted Kimberlane. He was who he was. Not much he could do about it. Not much he wanted to do about it. He loved who he was. He liked his life, but he had his regrets. After having to kill his own son for the good of his world, or society's world, as he put it, he was never the same. He went from this father-type figure of a man to a man that hated his life. The story is not really known of what went on between him and his son. The only thing that's known, even to him himself, since his mentality broke at the moment of his son's death, is there was a train, there were girls, and the boy in his arms. He didn't know much about the girls, all that they were standing around weeping for his son's death along with him. He never knew what to make of it. He tried numerous times to try to grasp what was locked within his own brain, but he could never do it. Kimberlane died at an old age of 88. He had seen a lot of the world. He'd traveled, seen countries, met women. And there's even tell of a bartender in deep Asia that spoke of him with a certain reverence that would be spoken of legends, religious leaders, religious icons, even of God himself. Some even dubbed him king among men for the way he lived his life, for the way he treated people. But that's who Kimberlane was. That's the man I knew, even if briefly. We met in Philadelphia, crossing paths at a local bar. And at first I didn't think much of Kimberlane, just this ganky, tall figure of a man. Not unlike the great Abraham Lincoln of history. But unlike Abraham Lincoln, Kimberlane was not an honest man. He had to hide his past, mainly from himself, because it caused him great pain. I met him, from what I can understand, to only be a few years after his son's death. We talked about the virtues of life and living it and loving it. But I never seemed to seek in with him, although he had many lessons to give me. Myself, I have had a good life, and am having a good life, and will in the future. But Kimberlane was so distraught deep down that I don't think even the wisest man or the best medical doctor or psychiatrist could cure him of his distraught state at heart. I never understood the man, but I understand the lessons he taught me, which was to love if you have kids, love if you have a wife, and respect yourself, to not kill yourself. Kimberlane thought of suicide as an easy way out. I even asked him, had he ever attempted suicide? He told me he had put the rope around his neck, he had put the knife to his wrist, he had even put a gun to his temple. But he could never yank the rope, he could never cut with the knife, and he could never pull the trigger, because his own ego stopped him. He knew that he was too much of a man to do this. It was too cowardly. And that stuck with me. There are moments I miss Kimberlane. I miss our conversation we had, even if it was, again, very brief. I think it was only a few hours at the most, but it seemed like the longest lesson in life that could ever be attained in one conversation with one man that you'll ever meet in your life. Thank you, Kimberlane. Thank you for showing me, and wherever you are, thank you for helping the world. Wow.